Welcome back, everybody, to the Missions Conference today. Today, you're going to see a question and answer between the Abbotts and Caitlin to hear some of the burdens that's been placed on their hearts throughout the years for the Manna Missions feeding. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy.
Okay. Hi, Brother Abbott. I'm so excited to see you today.
Hey, Caitlin, it's good to see you too.
So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And can you explain manna? I know we've got lots of people who are familiar with it, but we have lots of new people as well. So can you explain what manna is and what your position in manna is?
Sure. Manna Worldwide is what I call a compassion organization. And basically, we try to go to places where people are suffering, either through lack of food or nutrition or health care or all kinds of things. And we do our best to address the immediate need. And then, of course, our ultimate goal is to share the gospel with every person that we come into contact with or able to reach. And so we do those kind of things through feeding ministries, through family homes, through classical type of orphanages. And we do it with trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to do the kind of ministry that he did when he lived on the planet Earth. So that's what Manna does. We also another big component of what we do is bringing awareness to people, primarily through mission trips to the field, to be able to go and see what it's like on a mission field, or if somebody feels maybe God's speaking to them about going, that it'd be a good first step to just go and see what happens. I know that every time somebody goes for the first time, it's a life-changing experience. So we do that. I am the director for Europe, and it sounds pretty impressive when I say I'm director of Europe, but really it's just me and my wife pretty much, and one other lady that helps us, couple of gals. And so, but we have about 20 projects. Most of those are feeding projects, and then we have several children's homes.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about the children's homes.
Okay.
Can you tell me what they are? And there's a pretty incredible story with the Father's house.
Yes, there is. Yeah, we were. There's a much longer story that I won't go into now, but God gave us a building that a lady had built. She had actually had 2 kids. She was a widow and moved to this way out in the middle of nowhere place in Romania, and started building a children's home. And it was she worked at it for quite a few years, and then basically just ran out of money, is for lack of anything else. But it sat there for about 7 years, and then somehow I found out about it. And long story short, she gave us that building, and it was going to cost. It's a 27,000 square foot facility. It's on like 5 acres, and they've got a barn. They have a big garden, and they got all kinds of stuff. It's really a very pretty place. But we have children that live there. It's we have 2 families. Actually, it's one big family, but there are about 8 kiddos, and then we have several, like 2 couples that are there, a younger couple and a little bit older couple, and we also have a grandmother there who's it's always good to have grandma around. But our philosophy is a family would be a mom and a dad, and up to 10 children. Some of those could be their own biological kiddos, or maybe none of them are their biological children. So, but yes, that was the building was gifted to us, and all we needed was about $350,000 to finish it. And so we had a donor gave us that money. We didn't even ask for it, to be honest with you. It just came. So it was pretty incredible. It was definitely a step. I mean, it was pretty obvious what God was going to do there. So yeah, it's been good. We have 2 other smaller ones in that area as well, and then we have in southern, actually over not too far from Hungary, across the Hungarian border, in Romania, we have a girls' home, and we have and they have like, how many kiddos they got now? They've had some of them have gotten married, and now they have kids themselves. But we started off with 4 girls that had been abused pretty badly, and brought them into a safe environment and where they thrived. And so it's been good to see those children grow up, and now they have kids and a family of their own.
How do most of the kids that come into their how does that come about?
Well, in this case, in the one we're just talking about, Pastor Gitza, who is the local pastor there in Tinka, which is a little village, he was born and raised there. He knows everybody. He's a really great guy. He's a godly man. He's just a really good guy in a lot of ways. And he knows what's going on in the Roma community. And so somewhere somebody told him about these girls that were in these kind of situations, and it was just, unacceptable. Again, it was a remarkable thing about getting a piece of property, because we just heard about these two girls that were living just right next door to the feeding center at the time, and we heard that the mother had already left. The guy was drunkard and abusive, and anyway, he was using his, I think at the time she might have been 14-year-old as a surrogate mother. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what's going on. And we said, man, that's just unacceptable. So long story short, in less than 3 months, we had found a building. We had gotten permission from the government, which is huge. And we had the money to buy the house, and all that just came about real rapidly. And so, like I said, we started off with 4 girls, and let me think here now. 3 of those girls have had got married. Of course, when they got married, they kind of move out on their own, and some of them actually, one of them is living in England because they can get jobs there. They can't get a job there in Tinka. So it was just a God thing again, that was something that was going on that the Lord wanted to bring our attention to, and He just kind of provided everything that was needed for that. I was going to say, yeah, the girls went through school. They graduated high school. One gal is, she's no longer in school, but she's going back to school actually. And she's actually our house parents at that place. It's their actual biological daughter, and has a little baby. Actually, she's got 2 babies now. And she said she's going to be a teacher. She's studying to be a teacher and wants to teach kids in school. So hopefully she'll be able to do that as the years go by.
That's pretty incredible. Just like the transformation that God can make in people's lives through godly people. How do the feeding centers work? And I know that you guys do a lot with the kids there.
Yeah, we do. A Manna Feeding Center, our primary goal is to feed the kids. That's our first, not necessarily primary, but the first goal is to feed the children, make sure they're getting some good food. The families are so poor in the Roma community. They have a little bit, it's very difficult for them to get a regular job or any way to make money. This time of the year, there is what they call forest fruits, and there's like mushrooms that grow in the forest, which are government owned, but everybody goes out and, they harvest those berries, those kind of things. This time of the year is when they can actually make a little bit of money by going out and picking up 2 or 3 pails of these certain kind of mushrooms or berries. But because of the coronavirus thing, they're discouraging the Roma from doing that now, for being out in the public. So it's kind of tough for them. But we also teach the kids a Bible lesson every time they come, every day. And we have a Bible lesson. We have a curriculum. Actually, we have a lady that works with us, Curry Kondracki. She made a 3-year Bible curriculum. She was a Christian school teacher in Delaware for 14 years, really organized gal. And she made the lesson, about 3 applications. There's a memory verse, there's a coloring page, and it all dovetails together for a week, for like 5 days. And then they move on to the next one the next week. So the kids come and they hear the gospel. When mom and dad, a lot of times, we have ladies that bring their babies They're barely, I mean, they can eat. They're not just on milk anymore. But when the mothers come, they feed the baby until the baby's full, and then mom will eat, what the baby leaves behind, which is fine with us. And so it's the mothers also hear the lessons and hear the gospel, and they hear how to Christ.
So we talk a lot about different cultures and how those cultures impact our missionaries and how they're able to present the gospel. There's several different groups I know in Romania, including the Roma, which are the Gypsies. How open are their hearts to the gospel, and like how are the manna feeding centers impacting the way that you're presenting the gospel?
Okay. First of all, the Roma people as a people, and they're scattered all over Europe. Most people have never heard the word Roma. They've heard the word gypsy, but it's the same thing. Roma's their formal name, I guess you'd call it. And they're a race of people. They're not half-breeds or anything like that. They are a race of people. But they're very receptive to the gospel. They're very open, and it's anytime, a lot of the church services that we're in while we're there with groups or without groups, we see people coming forward, regularly, and sometimes a lot of people. It just depends on how the Spirit's moving and all that, but they're very, very receptive. Romanians are not quite as receptive, but they are receptive. And they're good people, I think. I love the Gypsies, and I love, Romanians as well. They're very friendly. They're very pro-American. They love America, and they are, they kind of feel like they want to be like us or help us in some ways. So it's good that they are very receptive, because we have, like I said, a lot of opportunities to go in. When we take a group over, we'll go into maybe 5 or 8 homes that are kind of struggling financially, and we'll go out and buy a bunch of food and put it in a basket and bring a bunch of stuff and give it to them and pray with them, ask if we can pray for them for anything, if they've some needs or issues or health problems or whatever, and we will lay our hands on them and pray for them, for their healing and recovery.
It's kind of really interesting that, especially like that, you're saying that the Romas are especially receptive to the gospel, and that Western Europe, especially with their atheistic hostility towards the gospel, hasn't really permeated there. I know when we were talking earlier, you were also talking about another group that Manna's helping, that has that same receptive nature towards the gospel. Can you tell me about them?
Sure. These are refugees. Mostly, about 98% of them are from Iran, from the country of Iran, and they're Muslim, or they're raised Muslim. I wouldn't say that they are Muslim, but they're coming through Greece, through Athens, Greece. And there's a ministry there that we've been partnered with for about close to 14 years now. That is, a lot of these refugees have came in through there, and they actually have a ministry to them. They have, like, almost every day they've got something going on, and it's either in the morning or the afternoon, but people come and they have Bible lessons, they have Bible studies. Some are going through discipleship process, and they're very, very open to the gospel. And there's been some things that have been recorded about the way some of these people have came to know Christ. And there's a common thread, and I've even talked to a lot of these people myself personally, because this may sound a little weird, okay? But I believe it from my heart that's true. I've read where they would say that a lot of Muslims will have a dream, and they will, in this dream, there will be Jesus is talking to them, and he's saying, why are you rejecting me, or why are you turning away from me? And at some level, I don't really understand it, but I know this is true. Um, they accept Christ, and what they need after that is they need to be discipled. And I've interviewed several people who I didn't know, and they didn't know me. And what we found is that this has happened thousands of times. You know, different people have had basically the same thing. I had a dream. Jesus came to me in this dream saying, "Why against me? I love you," and all those kind of things. And so, anyway, these people they're ready to be discipled in most cases. And I don't know how high the number is now, because I've been tracking this for over 10 years, but it's got to be a phenomenal amount of people. And one of the things that the people who run the Voice of Truth, when they're first, somebody comes in and, they want to be friends with them, and we feed them. Manna helps feed them as well. When they're interviewing them and talking, sitting down to talk to them about God and about Jesus and all that, at some point, the person who's talking to them, who works at the Voice of Truth, will say, "Well, tell me about when you had the dream about Jesus." And they're like, "What? How did you know that?" I said, "Because we've heard this a lot. We've heard a lot of people tell us the same thing." And so it kind of gives chills a little bit, but it's happening, and it's happened, and it's still happening. And I don't know how much longer it's going to be, so many people coming through. But like I told you the other day, I think I'm putting a lot of effort into reaching the Roma and reaching the refugees, especially the Iranians, the Persians, because they call it the Persian Spring, which is, things are happening, and it's been going on for a long time, probably 20 years, I guess, something like that.
That is like the ultimate, I think, picture of redemption, and just the perfect picture of Christ and Christianity. I think as Christians, obviously, we see a lot of the persecution these days comes from Muslims. And so to see the redemptive power of Jesus and what Christ can do in them, I think is beautiful. And that they are so open. There's not hope in Islam. There's hope in Christianity. Sure. And compassion ministries like Manna are how we reach them. It's how Jesus reached people. And that's so powerful when you're able to show people love, not just saying I love you, but doing something. And God says he confounds the wise and gives wisdom to the simple. And in so many ways, Muslims, and I would imagine the Roma as well, they're naive to Christianity and naive to Christ and the things of Christ. So, and live without hope. So when they're able to see hope in Christ and able to see that power that we have as Christians, and I think sometimes in America we forget because we see it so much, Yeah. It's really a beautiful thing. How have you seen that impact the communities that man is in? Because I'm sure that it's not just, it starts at an individual level, but it always spreads farther and reaches farther. How are you seeing Manna impact the communities that it's in?
Well, again, when we do our trips, when we're over there with a group, we try to prepare as best we can ahead of time. First thing we do is I talk about the Gitza, and I don't want to tell him, hey, we're going to come over here and do this. I want him to tell me what he needs us to do for him and for that community. And so he'll tell us, and we'll do our best to, follow through with that. Um, I've seen people come, like we're always in a church service, or sometimes 2 or 3. And one of these days you should come if it's possible. No, you're planting your heart somewhere else as far as being a missionary, but maybe you come through Romania sometime, because especially among the Roma, because they're just very simple people, and they really have nothing except for their children of value. But they're real sweet people too. And I've seen them. And what I'm getting at is that I think there would be more people in America who would be on fire for God if they were a little more humble. And I'm not, pointing fingers at anybody except maybe myself, but these people are very humble. And we were there one time, and just jam-packed full of people. I mean, it was wall-to-wall people. And the service in a Roma church service is usually, if you get out of there in 3 hours, it's pretty quick, But singing, there's a lot of singing. There's a lot of different things that go on, and I love it. It's really incredible time. But there was a altar call was given. This man was dressed up in a suit, and he walked down to the front, and the woman, I think is his wife, and they knelt down. They got on their knees on a tile floor and were praying. And I noticed it's not really their culture or their custom in that church to, like we do in America. If somebody comes to an altar, somebody will go over and, say, hey, can I help you? Can I pray for you? What's going on? They don't do that. So God said, Jerry, get over there and talk to this guy. So I get over. Of course, I can't communicate with Gypsy or Romanian, but I just began to pray everything I could think of off the top of my head, and said, God, you know what he needs. And I was just hanging on to the guy. Anyway, after it's all over, I asked the pastor, who was that guy? He said, well, he's the town drunk. He said, that guy was never sober. He said, you catch him any time of the day or night, he was always drunk. He said it got so bad that his friends wouldn't give him any money, so he wouldn't go down and buy, some kind of liquor or something. He said he even drank some kind of fluid stuff, that he could get a little bit high on, I guess. And I was like, well, that's incredible. And the guy had, made a profession of faith. Well, I came back. Went back to the States, came back, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later. And I said, hey, you remember that guy? And he said, yeah. I said, was he still coming? He said, that guy's been here every Sunday since that day. He said he quit drinking. He has a little house, a little tiny house that he built himself. Him and his wife lived there. And so life change it's incredible. And we see those kind of things a lot.
That's just the power,
Yeah,
the power of Christ and the power of missions and the heart of missions.
Yeah.
We always hope when we do mission conferences that it makes missionaries out of us at home too, because
Sure.
we know so many people that have that story.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in Romania, but in Ponca City.
Yeah.
And have that. We have people in our church that have that testimony, but we know we have friends and family that are living that life now that can need Christ.
Mm-hmm.
How you were talking about when we go on short-term missions and how that affects our hearts. For our first mission trip, that was like our verse, like for the whole trip, was my eye affects my heart, and it does. Like,
It does.
what's the power that you've seen going back kind of to short-term missions? Like, what's the power that you've seen from people who go on them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Every first timer is blown away in a good way, not a bad way, but in a good way. It changes their life. It literally changes their life. And it's not the same change for everybody. Everybody's different. You got different feelings and background and all that, but it's something that you will never forget. And I can't explain why, but I just know it is. And I think it's because if I could give it a reason or an underlying cause, it's that this is what God wants us to experience. Whether it's witnessing to your neighbor in the backyard, or whether it's going and talking to a Roma through a translator, to tell them about Jesus or whatever kind of thing. That it just impacts us. Number one, it's a different world there than it is here. And we always generally we'll take a small group and we'll go into some of the homes just to see, not only to take them some things, but also so that our group can see how these people live on a day-to-day basis, which is generally a one room, maybe 15 by 10 foot room, dirt floor, no indoor running water, no toilets, no bathrooms, and they'll have, who knows, 5 to 8 kids. And then mom and dad and sometimes grandma is all living together in this little bitty place. And it's very humbling to see that. And I think for most people, I've had people make this comment, after they've been there and seen those, and I'm sure you can see the same thing in Guatemala, Central America, South America, all over the world. That's the way a lot of people live because there's no other way for them.
Right.
But it just makes you realize I don't have any reason to be complaining about anything, because we just don't. We're kind of spoiled rotten here in America.
We forget how much we're blessed just by being American sometimes, like that our standard of living is so much higher than almost anywhere else in the world, that running water is taken for granted. Hot water is taken for granted.
Yeah.
Clean water is taken for granted.
Yeah. That's true. And I think the biggest benefit of being in America is that I know we got a lot of problems in America and it seems to be going the wrong direction, but there's still so many gospel preaching churches in the United States, and there's new churches popping up, on a regular basis all over. And so we actually have so many ways to connect to Bible teaching or being able to share your faith than most of the world ever experiences.
So, kind of wrapping up, what are some ways that we as a church, we support, obviously, your family, but Sammy and Becky and Sever and Kathy Gonchalia that also do missions. So what are some ways that we can specifically pray for you and help in any way that we can?
Okay. I can think of about 900 things, but we'll just do 2 or 3. Okay. No, right now, and with this virus has not only impacted, here in the United States, but it's impacted every one of our manna feeding centers in Europe and some that are in other places. And so it's making it more difficult for the people who, that we provide the resources so they can buy the food and get it cooked and give it to the kids and all that. But some of the restrictions are prohibiting that. Not in all cases, but in several that I'm aware of. And so we need to pray for them that they can get the things, and have the freedom to continue to feed the kids, because those kids and the parents, they need that food. I mean, it's not like they're going to be able to get it from anywhere else. And so we have, like I said, our centers that are shut down technically. We are having the food cooked and delivered to them pretty much for the same amount of money that we were sending anyway to feed all the kids. So, but it's harder because even though we're feeding the children, mom and dad now are more at risk too, because not being able to get food or have money to buy stuff. So pray for those folks that we, in all of our feeding ministries, especially for the like the leaders like Rika and Kathy and Sammy and Becky and all the others who work, our ministry partners on the ground, who are amazing unbelievable, great people, that they will have wisdom and guidance through this time. And some of the laws and some of the ways they do things in Romania, especially, mostly it's in the bigger cities. In the smaller places, there's not any trouble. But in the bigger places, there's a lot of authoritarianism as far as just, being unreal and harsh, unrealistically harsh to people and not understanding, that maybe they're scared, maybe they don't know what's going to happen. So just pray for them. Our pastor this morning, as we were going through live stream, he's been talking about joy and about happiness, going through the Beatitudes basically, and about having joy and having peace in your heart. And that's a message right now that a lot of people need to hear in America too, I think, because a lot of people are really stressed about, how long is this going to last and when's it going to turn around and all that. So those things. But yeah, if you just pray for our ministry partners and for us, we're kind of stuck in the house for the most part right now. I mean, we're supposed to be. And even though I sneak out every once in a while because I get crazy inside. But yeah, and I appreciate your church praying for us. And, we've been partners with your church for, I can't remember how many years now. It's been a long time. I've got a record. I've got it written down someplace. But it's been a long time. And I appreciate the many years of praying for us and supporting us and encouraging us. And we appreciate a lot that.
Is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, this may be a little premature, but whenever the coronavirus is under control, I would like to encourage your church to think about doing another trip to Romania at some point, maybe going back to southern Romania or wherever they would like to go. But we'd like to just throw that out now. It may be, I don't know if we're going to be this year. I mean, right now, who knows? But I'm sure in the future, there'll be trips going again. And I just like to encourage your church your church group to pray about going on one of those.
We'd love that.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Thank you so much for meeting with us and just sharing your heart and really just telling us about the people of Romania and about Manna and the work that you guys are doing. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with your church. As I told you yesterday that I was trying to get there last year. I was just going to basically come, and we even scheduled for your conference. I was supposed to be there, and then of course I had plans. So, but we'll get back. We'll definitely come back. I love coming to your church, and I love your pastor. He's a good friend of mine, and I pray for him a lot.
Well,
Thank you for interviewing me and for letting me speak to your church.